When I first started at FE, it was quite apparent that a lot of investment portfolios would hold quite a significant portion of cash. And back then, interest rates were kind of 4 or 5%. So cash was seen very much as a viable asset class. And as time grew on, as interest rates were welded to the floor, those cash holdings have basically evaporated. And more portfolios you see now virtually hold nothing in cash. But as interest rates are starting to now slowly creep up, it does make you wonder whether you're going to see more cash holdings within portfolio recommendations. And we are starting to see more and more advisors asking us about how to mimic cash on analytics. And it's always been the case that you can do this. And one of the most popular ways of mimicking cash is using a growth rate. So under this market indices tab at the very top here, if you click on Financial Express, you get these growth rates. So if my cash instrument or cash ISA is paying 1%, 1.5%, etc., rates I've seen recently more like 3%, you can click on the 3% growth rate and essentially chart it. It's just a flat line growing compound at 3%. If you don't want it to say FE interest 0.75% 74 composite, which does look a bit peculiar to a retail client, I suspect, you can click on the portfolio tab, click on new portfolio. I won't do this now, but if you add that rate into a portfolio, assign 100% to it, and you could save that portfolio as Mrs. Smith Hargreaves Lansdown ISA, and then it would appear as Mrs. Smith Hargreaves Lansdown ISA on the report. A question I had a couple of days ago was, can we mimic NS&I premium bonds? The answer to that is yes. And with NS&I, they actually publish the rates. Now, we can't mimic if someone suddenly wins £1 million. That's going to be quite tricky. But the rates NS&I do publish is kind of like the aggregated average you should expect in a premium bond. And this is their website, and it shows all the rates they've had historically back to 2008. So those of you that don't want to have to build in all the history, you could just go and grab like a 1.4 rate and just chart that and call that National Savings and Investments, much like the Hargreaves Lansdown example I gave. If you're pretty sad like me, what you can do, if you go and find this, if I open up this NS&I bonds, you'll see I've made all of those changes and added them as a dynamic tab over on the over on the right hand side. So those of you that don't know how to build dynamic portfolios, there is a tip for that on our YouTube channel. Feel free to go and find that, and it would basically explain how you put buys and sells in. And for the most part, your buys and sells are going to be buying and selling funds, but here I'm technically buying and selling different interest rates. Now, some of you may have noticed that these rates do not accrue at the same rates that we accrue at. So our rates are accruing at 0.25, I think it is. So we've got 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, etc. Whereas the rates here are not as clean as that. So, for example, the most recent rate I've put in there is 1.5%, whereas actually it's technically 1.4. So a bit of a tip: if you double click on that tab, you can put an extra charge in. So I'm technically using the 1.5% growth rate, but applying an extra 0.1 charge, which brings it down to 1.4. As I said, you've got to be pretty sad to want to spend 10 minutes doing this for real accuracy, but those of you like me, feel free to do that. But once you've done that, you've then got the NS&I premium bonds as a portfolio. You've got RPI in this example, and we've got Vanguard Life Strategy, which might be a proposed solution we're looking at. And the types of charts you could then create off the back of it should be quite impressive and meaningful to a retail client. You can say, well, look, let's move away from the fact you're probably not going to win £1 million, or probably even more than your £25 prize on the premium bonds. This is the average rate you would have got over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. This is what my proposed solution that I'm suggesting. Don't look at premium bonds, look at something like a Vanguard Life Strat 80. And incidentally, that's what RPI has been doing over the same time period. Now, I could rebase this into pounds and pence and really let that hit home to the client. But at the moment, RPI is running at 25%, our cash is running at 6%, so that NS&I has basically lost 19% real value, whereas I'd be much better off in my Vanguard Life Strategy 80. Now, going back to what I was saying earlier, maybe the advice might be to have 90% in Life Strat 80 and 10% in premium bonds, perhaps. So again, build a portfolio, add that fund to the portfolio at 90%, NS&I bonds at 10%, and create your own hybrid solution that includes some cash in there, if that's what you think is viable for the client. So hope you found that useful. As ever, any questions, contact us in the bottom left-hand corner, and I'll give you the details for the help desk.